Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar about mechanical and mechatronics engineering graduate studies. The idea today is that you're going to learn those important steps when you're planning to apply for a PhD or a master's degree in the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Waterloo. Today, we have the full team. We have the professor, Dr. Cécile Desbois. She is the associate chair from graduate studies in the Department of Mechanical Mechatronics Engineering. She is an expert about, everything. But today she will be explaining a little bit more information about research. Tanya, she is the graduate funding coordinator in Mechanical Mechatronics Engineering Department. Everything, of course, about money. If you have all these questions, she is available to help you. We have Matt Walton, graduate admissions and recruitment from Mechanical Mechatronics Engineering. So, of course, all those questions about what are the admission requirements, he will explain them all. And I am Maria Sandoval. I am the marketing and recruitment specialist in the Engineering Graduate Studies Office in the Faculty of Engineering. As well, I'm here to help you and support to find all the information. Today, mainly, you're gonna learn what are the programs, the admission requirements, and deadlines to apply, what it makes a good application, how to find a supervisor, research areas in mechanical mechatronics engineering, and just a little bit about funding and awards. The University of Waterloo in the Faculty of Engineering is leader in the industry connections. It's a very well-known university in Canada and worldwide. We have very top labs, institutes, centers. Like, we will require an entire session to talk about all those facilities that we have available for our students. The University of Waterloo is a top ranking schools. The Faculty of Engineering is the biggest in Canada. We have as well a lot of clubs and associations. We understand that this is not only your experience at the university is not only about academics to become the best of the best in your field, but also to have a good experience here at the university. So there are many activities, the clubs, the sports centers is one of the biggest one. It is all available for you when you become a Waterloo student. Only at Waterloo, 100% of the ideas developed at Waterloo are owned by their creators. So if you come with an idea to the university, it is your idea, you have the control, the patent to license your idea, to commercialize it, or even to start your own company. That's why you see many examples of many Waterloo students who really just started their own business. This is one of the reasons. There are many more, but this is one of them. And this is very unique from the university. So if you are one of these great candidates to take a master or PhD, you have a great idea, this is the proper place for you.
Yeah, so I'm Cécile Desbois. So I'm going to start with this first slide on why graduate studies in mechanical and mechatronics engineering. Different reasons, but a few of those are highlighted here. So that would be to advance your engineering career. I mean, typically those who will do grad studies in MME, mechanical and mechatronics engineering, would already have a degree in engineering, or possibly as well in applied math and science. So, but advance your engineering career. Could also be create and support research projects. Typically, for those who want to do research, you would work on a fully funded research project with a supervisor. You also want to strengthen and expand upon the technical research and practical skills. That's something very important. And get more specialized knowledge and tools to work on some aspects of your field of interest.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt. If you send an email to MME Grad Admissions, if you have a question about admissions, you'll probably be talking to me. So it's lovely to meet you all in person, as it were, here. I hope it is a lovely day wherever you are. So we'd like to start here by talking a little bit about the programs that we offer and helping you figure out which program you want to apply for. So here in MME, we have three main graduate programs. You'll see on the screen that we have a course-based master's and then two research-based degrees. So we'll talk about the course-based master's first. We get a lot of applicants to this program, the Master of Engineering or the MEng degree. So a course-based program doesn't have a thesis. So if you don't really want to be doing research or writing a large document at the end, this might be a good option for you. The MEng degree has 8 courses, and it typically takes about a year and a half, so 3 or 4 terms of full-time enrollment to complete. It's a self-funded degree. That means that there typically aren't any scholarships or funding available. That's a question I get a lot from applicants, is what funding is available. And for the MEng degree, if you're an international applicant, there basically isn't any funding available. So something to keep in mind with that. But on the other hand, it means it can be a self-funded degree. So if you plan to pay for your way through school, it can be a good way to go. We get a lot of questions about the co-op program. Here in MME, in Mechanical and Mechatronics Engineering, we are starting the MEng co-op this fall for the first time, which is very exciting. It's going to be a very small cohort of students with that opportunity to start, but I expect it will expand in future terms. Moving on to the research-based degrees. So again, we have two other graduate degrees. There is the Master of Applied Science, the MASC, which is a research-based master's degree. So unlike the MEng degree, there's going to be fewer courses, but there's going to be a thesis involved. And you're going to have a supervisor. We'll talk a little bit about that in a future slide. Typically, the Masters of Applied Science takes about 2 years or 6 terms to complete. It's worth noting that the University of Waterloo has 3 terms per academic year, the fall, winter, and spring. Then moving on, the doctorate in philosophy. So again, typically you go into a doctorate program if you have already completed a master's, typically a research-based master's. It's usually a 4-year program, so it's a big commitment, but it is a obviously useful approach if you are looking to potentially pursue a career in research, in academia, and of course working in industry is also an option. So with all of these, you want to think a little bit when you're choosing which degree suits you best about whether you want a course-based degree, a research-based degree, and what your career goals might be. So typically, if you're doing the MEng program, the course-based degree, you're looking at something that is going to be more geared toward career in industry. Whereas if you're pursuing the Masters of Applied Science or a PhD eventually, you're likely going to be looking more toward research, but it could still be working in industry. So as I mentioned, we do have 3 academic terms per year, fall, winter, and spring. And that means that we have 3 application cycles. You can apply to any of these degrees in any application cycle. We are currently accepting applications for the spring 2024 cycle. The winter deadline has already passed. So if you are looking to apply for spring 2024, the deadline for your complete application will be October 1st, 2023. Then for fall 2024, which is typically the largest cohort of students, that's when we get the most applications, the deadline is February 1st, 2024, and so on. Again, for the spring, for winter 2025, already looking into 2025, the application deadline will be June 1st, 2024. As the slide says, these programs are highly competitive, and if I can give you one piece of advice, well, I'll probably give you many pieces of advice today, but one piece of advice today would be make sure your application is complete and on time. I get a lot of applications that are late or incomplete or missing a reference or missing a transcript or whatever it might be. And, I do work with students to try and get those complete after the deadline, but, your best chance of getting noticed early on, of having a stronger application, have it complete by the deadline. If you're not sure if it's complete, send me an email. We'll help make sure it is. So step number 2, we talked about figuring out which program you want to do. Now it's time to figure out the admission requirements. So again, 3 separate degrees. The course-based MEng, let's talk about the requirements for that first. So for this degree, and for all the degrees, you need to have an undergraduate degree first, a bachelor's degree. Typically in engineering, though, sometimes we see applicants come from other fields in STEM, so math or applied physics, things like that. It needs to be a 4-year degree. Sometimes we get applicants saying, well, I have a 3-year certificate or diploma. And unfortunately, the answer is no. You need a 4-year degree. Depending on where you're from, there can be small exceptions, but typically you require at least a 4-year undergraduate degree in order to apply. And as it says there on the slide, it typically needs to be from a university with recognized standing with at least a B average, about 75% or equivalent. Now, the equivalent is important. You can visit our website and find out about international admissions equivalencies. Obviously, not every university uses a percentage system. Most, in fact, use GPA. Some use a 3-point or 4-point GPA. Some places use a 10-point GPA. It's all over the map. So look at your transcript and gauge if it's approximately a B or 75%. And in your application, in addition to the transcript, you need 2 letters of reference from professors. So these are academic references. And typically we get a lot of questions from people saying, can I get a reference from my employer? No, you need an academic reference. Sometimes you get questions saying, can I get a reference from my friend who's a student? No, it needs to be from a professor or somebody who's worked with you in a supervisory role in an academic position. So somebody who is familiar with your coursework. Many of you will require, if you're an international student or if you've completed your degree at a university outside of Canada or the United States, you will need proof of English language proficiency. I believe we have a slide later on that shows exactly what those are, but for now, that can be typically a TOEFL test or an IELTS test, and there's certain minimums that can be required. This is really important. If you are applying to the MEng program and you are an international student who's completed their education outside of Canada or the United States, you must submit a GRE. This is probably the single most common thing that leads to incomplete applications. For the MEng, you must have the GRE. There are no exceptions unless you took your bachelor's degree in Canada or the United States. So definitely start thinking about that now. Most people will not have the GRE. You have to take that exam. It's just an unfortunate thing, but it's a requirement. So make sure that you think about that if you're planning to apply to the MEng. And then beyond that, for the MEng degree, as well as the other 2 degrees, you'll need to submit your CV or resume. That's very straightforward. It's just a document that shows your work experience, your career experience, your educational experience. It can be a 1-page, it can be 2-page, it can be more. That's not really the big concern. You just need to submit something that shows that information. And you'll need to submit what is called the supplementary information form. The supplementary information form is just part of the application. When you apply, it asks you some questions, you fill out some information about your background, your interests, and you don't need to worry about writing a statement of intent or letter. It just asks you questions, you fill out the answers. So again, those are the requirements for the application to the MEng program. Now, moving over to the research side of things, the Master's of Applied Science and the PhD. The application requirements are similar, but not identical. So again, you will need we'll talk about the Master's first, the Master's of Applied Science. Again, you need that for your bachelor's degree, the undergraduate degree. You need 2 academic reference letters. You need proof of English language proficiency. You need CV or resume and supplementary information form. Now you'll see highlighted at the bottom, you must also find a supervisor. This is the single most common question I get about the research-based degrees. Do I need a supervisor? Do I need a supervisor before I apply? So the answer is yes, you do need a supervisor in order to be admitted to the program. You do not, however, need a supervisor before you apply. So this is what I would suggest for most applicants, is that when you apply, get your complete application in, have all your reference letters and everything like that. As soon as it's complete, then start contacting professors here. We'll talk a little bit more about finding a supervisor and how important it is later on, but that's the process. You want to get your complete application in, then start looking for supervisors. So you do not need to find a supervisor before you apply, but you do need to find a supervisor here in order to be admitted. Just briefly, I'll talk about the requirements for applying to the PhD, the Doctor of Philosophy degree. Is very similar to the master's. The change is that you obviously need a master's first in order to apply. There are cases where we do a direct admit to the PhD from a bachelor's degree. It's fairly rare. Send me an email about it if you have a question about that. Note that you will need a higher academic average to be admitted to the doctorate. It's a very difficult academic degree. So typically we need about a minimum of an A- or an 80% in your master's degree in order to be considered for admission to the PhD. You also need 3 letters of reference for the PhD. 2 of those must be academic, 1 can be professional. Again, for the other degrees, for the MEng, for the Master's of Applied Science, you need 2 references. They both must be academic, no professional. For the PhD, you need 3 letters, 1 can be professional. Beyond that, the academic requirements or the application requirements for the PhD are very similar to the master's. You need the CV, you need the resume, you need proof of English language proficiency, and you need to find a supervisor. And I think we'll be talking about that on an upcoming slide. For international students, I mentioned that different schools use different GPA type things. So if you're not sure if your degree, your average is a 75% or a B, we have a page on our website called International Grade Equivalencies. And that's a really useful resource. It shows you what institutions in your country typically use and how that compares to our requirements here. So regarding English language proficiency, again, there are exemptions. You can find those listed on our website. There's a link there. I think it'll probably be dropped in the chat shortly. What is important to take away from this slide is these are the minimum requirements for your English language proficiency for the standard tests. The most common tests that we get are the TOEFL and the IELTS tests. You'll see there that these are the requirements we need. For example, for the TOEFL, a minimum overall score of 80, typically it's higher, and then minimum scores of 22 in writing, 20 in speaking, 20 in reading, and 18 in listening. And it's important to note that there are no exceptions to this. You need those scores. If you have a score that's below that, my recommendation will simply be wait, go write that test again, get the higher score, and then apply. You will be denied or rejected with a lower score. Similarly for the IELTS, the overall score you need is 6.5, and then a 6 in the writing and a 6 in the speaking. I do occasionally get questions about conditional admission, and I almost don't want to talk about this because this is a rare thing. Somebody will send me an email saying, okay, well, I'm 1 point below on the TOEFL score writing component. Can I be admitted? The answer is still no. The exception to that would be if you have a supervisor for the one of the research programs who really wants to accept you despite that. They can advocate for you and do a conditional admission, but that is only the case if there's a supervisor who really wants you. If you have somebody that you already have networked with that has already contacted you, that said, yes, I want to accept you, and then there's ways of working around that, but that is the exception, not the rule. So in general, if your English language proficiency scores are below the minimum, go and take the test again until you get the score you need, and then apply. You will be denied otherwise. All right, so I mentioned already, finding a supervisor, the most common question we get. Do I need a supervisor? You do not need a supervisor for the course-based MEng program. No supervisor required for the MEng. However, if you are applying to the research-based programs, the Masters of Applied Science or the PhD, you need to find a supervisor. It's incredibly important. Now, the good news is we do have lots of resources about how to find a supervisor. What I would say right now, one of many reasons why finding a supervisor is so important, not only is this person going to guide your studies and oversee your research and make sure that you are getting the education you need, that's going to be a really important relationship. This person your supervisor will also be providing much of the funding for your degree. And so that's why it's important to find a supervisor and why you won't be admitted to the degree without one. So finding a supervisor, again, you don't need to have a supervisor found when you apply, but as soon as you completed your application, as soon as it's fully submitted, then you should start contacting supervisors, sending them an email saying, here's my research interests. I would like to study with you. I hope you can have a chance to look over my application and maybe we can do an interview. Again, this is something that you can find on our website. The links will be sent after the presentation, but you can find on our website. There's videos on how to contact supervisors. You can learn about what they do, what their role is in your degree, all sorts of different things like that, how to find supervisors in your area of research. We have lots and lots and lots of information on this, but it is really important. So this is the number one reason for why applications are denied in the master's and PhD is that it's a couple months past the application deadline. We've reviewed all the files and nobody's accepted. None of the supervisors have accepted a file. And quite often it's important for you as the applicant to make yourself attractive as an applicant to these supervisors. Do the work of reaching out to them, sending them an email saying, hey, I've got my application here. This is why I think my research might be interesting to you. Are you accepting graduate students right now? So that's the big thing, is really put that effort in. It's really important. All right, so now we're on to specializations for the MEng and research areas for the master's and PhD. I believe Professor DeVoe will be speaking to these.
So yeah, a little bit about, so let's start with MEng, so specialization. So at the moment, we actually do not have too many specializations listed for the MEng degree. The MEng students have access to all or can enroll in all our graduate courses. And you don't, if you're an MEng student, you don't need to be to specialize in a specific area. But at the moment, we have fire safety and green energy, and there'll be more specialization coming up probably within the next few months. But that's what we have at the moment. Yeah. For MSc and PhD, so we're now going to talk about research areas. So typically, I would say traditional areas in mechanical mechatronics engineering, so materials, solid mechanics and design, fluid mechanics and fire, thermal engineering, automation and control. So I'm going to give you a bit more details on each. Just keep in mind that even if, for example, your supervisor is in materials engineering, you may still have a project overlapping different research areas, which is now very common, to have something multidisciplinary. So materials, so just really a glimpse of what materials engineering, what they do in this group. So we have a few examples here: electronic packaging, anything related to MEMS, and all the nanotech. Solid mechanics, that's a bit more traditional, but it's actually a lot of new technology going into solid mechanics. So you have all the manufacturing processes with AI. It's going a bit fast, but then, fluid mechanics. To be honest as well, all this description, you're going to find much more details on our website. So just we give you an overview. Fluid mechanics and fire. So that would be related to applications in aerospace, in the wind energy, fire research, microfluidics, and turbine combustion. Thermal engineering related to alternative fuels, all the different emerging energy systems, sustainable energy, heat transfer in microelectronics, and automation and control. So this is actually our biggest group here in the department, because it really covers all the different areas in automation and controls, and that certainly a lot going on these days. So we have very strong research activities in robotics, different kind of robotics, advanced manufacturing, additive manufacturing, and then sensors. We have a very large facility which is called RoboHub, autonomous vehicles. So there's really a lot going on in automation and controls. Yeah.
Now, a little bit about finance your graduate studies, Tania.
I'm going to answer some of your questions about financing your graduate studies. Now, Matt was saying that it's important to find a supervisor during the admission stage, because a supervisor will be providing like the minimum funding for your MASC, which is your Master's of Applied Science program, or your doctoral program. There's minimum funding that's required by each supervisor that is provided on your offer letter. You can see MASC is $18,000 a year. So it's divided into terms. So it equates to $6,000 a term for 6 terms. If you go longer than that, it's likely that your supervisor may not provide any additional funding, but it's likely they will. Same with your PhD. They expect you to complete the program within 12 terms. You get $26,000 a year, which equates to, I think, $8,666 a term for 12 terms. And then, of course, we call it PhD 3, which is direct admission from the bachelor to the PhD program. And again, the MEng program has no funding available. It's a self-funded program. There are also additional awards and scholarships that are processed at the admission stage. So if you're an international student in the doctoral program, it's likely you'll receive the International Doctoral Scholarship Award, which also helps pay your international tuition. There is also an International Master's Scholarship of Excellence that is reviewed also at admission time that helps funding your degree. All students are reviewed at the admission stage. There's also a large Waterloo Awards database that is updated regularly by the Graduate Studies Office. The QR code will link you right directly to that awards database that you can look at different type of scholarships that are available. Some of them are even specific to mechanical or mechatronics engineering. It's great to look at those because there are applications that are required. And then, of course, we have external awards that become available to students that we get, throughout the term, throughout the year. Once that information is sent to us, we send it to all of our graduate students, and we help facilitate the nomination and help the scholarship package. I'd also like to say that the launch of the NSERC award has been launched. So I think it would be a good idea to look at the Waterloo Awards database for that information because the deadline is approaching. You don't necessarily have to be admitted into the program to apply. We just hope that you apply to this scholarship, and then once the application's open for fall term, then you can apply there. So you could apply prior to submitting your application for admission.
Soon we're going to have the recording of this session that you will find as well in this page about where we explain everything about funding. This webinar was last week, August 2nd, and we went through all of them in detail. That requires like an entire session to explain everything about funding. So please visit the page, and soon you will see this video posted there, and you will find as well all the information updated. And of course, now that you know what is the program you want to apply to, what are the admission requirements, you know the deadlines, you have them all, you are ready. If you're going for a research program and you already tried to contact a supervisor, then apply. That's the last step. Of course, within the deadlines, everything is online. Just read all the information that we have it here. I know it is like a lot of information that normally we as students, we have to go through, but it is designed there to guide you. Everything goes through this page that is called Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs. That's internally we call it GSPA. So that's how you apply to the university. If you have any questions about any specific program, you can contact MME Admissions, MME Grad Admissions at Waterloo.ca. Here is that you can scan this code. It will take you directly to the page. As well, we have been sharing all the links in the chat, and if you're seeing the recording, you will see the links in the description of the video. If you want to learn more information, the first thing you need to see is our graduate students page. Over there, you're going to find all the different sections about what are the admission requirements, resources for international students. You can find more about how is to be a student at the University of Waterloo. There are tons of resources available for you. Also, of course, in the mechanical mechatronics engineering page. So just go through them first, try to find the information there. Also, you can find here everything about how to find a supervisor's advice. Try to go there. And if you have any questions, just contact the MME Admissions or sign up with us to receive more information. So for now, let's just jump to questions. There you go. So one of the questions, how to make a good application if I'm not able to fulfill the minimum requirements of GPA mentioned on the Waterloo website. I do have 8 years of work experience.
Thank you for this question. The unfortunate answer is that in the case where a GPA is below the minimum, it's an extremely competitive program. So generally, it's not going to be a strong chance of a successful application. We do consider work experience. If you have 8 years work experience in a relevant field in engineering, that can be taken into consideration. And again, it does depend on whether you're applying to the MEng program or whether you're applying to the master's program, for example. If you're applying to the master's program and you have a supervisor who wants to take you despite a slightly below average GPA, there can be exceptions made. But generally the answer is no. If your overall academic is average is below the minimum, you have very low chances of being admitted. Cecile, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, it's going to depend how you can relate your work experience to the degree you're applying for. So it's probably, if we have to make an exception, it'd probably be a little bit easier for the MH program. It depends as well how well below your GPA is going to be. But if you apply with a GPA below the requirements, you need to make a case. You need to show us that your work experience is going to bring something else, a bonus towards the degree you're applying for. So the answer is, it will depend how low the GPA is going to be and what kind of work experience you have.
We are looking for the best of the best students at the University of Waterloo. 4 years, something else as well about admission requirements. Rashid, he's asking, 4-year undergrad degree is compulsory. I think, Matt, you mentioned about this. My first degree is a 3-year program in mechatronics engineering through a foundation 2-year higher diploma and 2-year national diploma.
Right, that's a good question. Higher diploma and national diploma, is that Nigeria by any chance? I think it might be.
Didn't mention,
My general rule that I said already, unfortunately, the 4-year undergraduate is necessary. The 3-year program typically won't be accepted. That's just unfortunately the answer. What I would say is, if you're unsure, feel free to send me an email. If you ask about something like that, be sure to send details about where you got your degree, what country, what institution. There may be exceptions, but typically the 4 years is required.
I see here as well some questions about the waiver for the application fee, if there's something available.
I'll answer that right now. We get a lot of questions about, is there application fee waiver? And I am very sympathetic to that. I recognize that in many parts of the world, for example, in Iran, where the currency situation is quite dire, that it can be very onerous, it can be very stressful to try and find that application fee. Unfortunately, we are not offering fee waivers for the application fee at this time. There are no exceptions. In the event that changes, you would find information about that on the website, but very typically it's very, very, very rare that we do fee waivers, and at this time there are no fee waivers under any circumstances.
I'm not sure about this one. Yeah, David, he's asking, is there a minimum payment before getting your documentations needed for visa application?
That's a good question. I don't believe so. Tanya, perhaps you can speak to that. Is there a minimum payment before getting your documentations needed for visa application? Generally, we can't speak to anything related to visa because immigration is not something we handle here in our department. What I would say for anything related to visa questions, immigration questions, you can contact the University of Waterloo Student Success Office. They have an immigration consulting there. I'll drop the link in the chat for that. But yeah, for anything related to visas, best to either contact an expert in your country or contact the University of Waterloo Student Success Office.
Can MH Masters receive full funding scholarship international students? I think, Alo, you came a little bit late to the webinar.
Yeah, so I'll just answer that briefly. Again, we do have the 2 separate master's programs. For the course-based MEng program, there is no guaranteed minimum funding. There is no funding. For the MEng, you are paying for the degree yourself, the tuition for everything. For the Master's of Applied Science, it is a funded degree. You cannot be a self-funded student. So it is a bit confusing, I recognize, but very simple terms. The MEng is a self-funded degree. You pay for it. The Master's of Applied Science, the MASC, is a degree that does have funding opportunities.
Amr has this question, maybe for Cecile. How do I tell the professor that I have completed my application, or is there a system already made at Waterloo's end that will inform professors that the candidate from such an email has applied?
Yeah, I can probably answer that if you want, Professor DeVoe. The short answer is when you apply to the research programs, to the Master's of Applied Science or the PhD, you will have the opportunity to list a requested supervisor. It's not required to do that, but you should do that. List one or maybe two supervisors that you'd be interested in studying with. That way, when your application is complete, I will send it personally to those supervisors. That being said, it is important that you also contact them. And once your application is complete, then I would recommend sending an email to the prof, say, hey, I completed my application. I'm really interested in studying here with you. Here's a little bit about me. If you'd like to meet for an interview, I'd be willing to do that, things like that. Then the professor, if they're interested, they can contact me and say, hey, Matt, can you send me the student's application? And I can do that right away. So there isn't a system that will automatically flag it for them, but it's something that I do every day is I send applications to specific professors. So again, when you apply, request a supervisor, it's important, but also recognize that it is okay and even encouraged to contact multiple supervisors. So, once your application is complete, send individual emails to multiple supervisors. Don't just CC everyone on one email. You won't get replies that way, but send personalized individual emails to relevant faculty members, and you will let them know that your application is complete.
Are there any research offered by professor, and can we apply for it?
Yeah, so this question I would assume is talking about research assistantships and teaching assistantships, and I see Professor DeVoe, you're about to answer that, so feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wasn't too sure about any research. All our faculty members in MME will have research projects and will have funding. Now it's not always funding open and viable at any time. So, some professors will actually advertise their research positions through their website or even through LinkedIn. So I would really encourage you, like if you're interested, for example, in doing research in, let's speak on materials again, but materials, you can then check the professors working in materials and see if they advertise any research positions. However, professors don't always update their websites, it depends, but sometimes it's not updated very often. So the best is that you target a few professors in the field that you would be interested in, and you contact them directly and ask them if they have any research positions. And then when you apply, I'm talking about research degrees. When you apply, you're going to typically identify research areas you're interested in. So that your application will be reviewed as well by professors in these research areas.
We have an anonymous attendee who's asking about breaks. How does it work? Is it that there is a break during the year?
It depends, I guess, which degree. For MNG, it's a short degree. So, it's only 1 year. You get breaks between terms. There are typically a couple of weeks without any courses and exams between terms. For research degrees, there's nothing, so that's something you'll have to discuss with your supervisor. But yes, typically you'll be able to have some time off. It's nothing really cast in stone, but I think it is understood that research students will take some time off within a year, so at Christmas or other times of the year. But that's something you need to discuss with your supervisor so that everything is planned ahead of time. Yes. But we have 3 terms at Waterloo, so that means there are courses offered. So the university stays open and there are courses open during the summer.
I see here we're already running. We have 5 minutes left. I see more questions about the English requirements. So I would like to invite you all to visit our graduate students page in the section International Students. Over here, you're going to find the international grade equivalences, what are the English requirements, and if you need to improve your English, the FAS program with the university. We also had a session about immigration, study permit admission requirements, study permit application requirements. So here is all this information available for you, as well as the awards database and everything that we have been mentioning in the webinar. So just please visit our graduate students page. Here as well, in the research and supervisors, just while I was reading all the questions, over here is listed for mechanical and mechatronics engineering. You will find all the research areas that Cecile just explained for all of you. And when you click, for example, in materials and processing, it will show you like more detailed information about it and what are the professors involved in that research. So you can go see their profile, read the entire explanation, see if it goes with the research that you want to run. And by the end, you're going to see here if they are accepting, if they are considering applications for graduate studies or not. So that's why we encourage you to see all this information. Let's say that your research starts right away in the application process. So you have to see all the profiles of the professors. If you find yourself also like writing to everybody, nobody's answering, like what's happening, maybe try to see what is your approach. So here is the advice for contacting a prospective supervisor. There is people from all over the world emailing the professor. So of course, when you want to take their attention, just follow our advices to give them the right approach so they are interested in your profile. Here, there are also more videos available for you. The other page I wanted to mention for you, it is the funding and scholarships and awards. This is a page that we are updating now. And over here, you're going to find the webinar that we did last week. Here in programs, in the section programs, you can find the difference that we explained, that Matt explained at the beginning with the different kind of programs you can take. And if you go here to all the admission requirements and you visit the mechanical and mechatronics engineering page, you will find all the programs and what are the admission requirements. Just some questions, because we just have like 5 minutes left about GRE. I don't find it now, but I saw what could be a good score for GRE.
Yeah, that's a great question. So regarding the GRE, again, the GRE is required if you are applying to the MEng program, the course-based program from a country outside of Canada or the US. In terms of the scores, there is no minimum score. The GRE is, the scores are expressed, they're broken into categories and are expressed by percentile. So generally, if you have, an average or, high percentile, that's going to be looked on favorably by the review committee. If you take the GRE and all your scores are very low percentile, like 10th percentile, 13th percentile, that's not good. You want to be, much higher. So, it's not a minimum score, but you do need the GRE. Even if you're not happy with the scores, just submit it, because without it, you won't be considered. And obviously, the better your scores, the better it will be reviewed. But there is no minimum score.
You are looking for best students. And here summarizing some of the questions about the research. Most times it is hard to get replies from the faculty members. Is there any way to improve one's chances of getting replies? And when it is recommended to reach out to professors prior submitting an application or after?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Professor DeVoe will answer it. I'll just briefly say it is best to complete your application, submit the complete application, then start emailing faculty members. Professor DeVoe?
I understand. It's hard to get replies from faculty members. So first, if faculty members don't reply, it doesn't mean that your application is bad. It's probably they don't have any open positions. So that's very often what that means. And then check again the webpage that will give you some tips on maybe how to contact potential supervisors. But I would say, just based on my experience, don't make a long email. When I get emails from students looking for positions, I want to see which university they are from, what did they study. If they did a master's, what was the topic of the master's thesis? and I want to see a resume attached or linked. And it doesn't have to be very long. So just, and make it as well targeted. I get a lot of emails from students who tell me that they want to do research in materials. I don't know why I get so many emails, but students I don't do any research in materials. So make sure that you're going to contact as well faculty members in the research area you're interested in. Don't send mass emails. So short, targeted, and if they don't reply, don't get discouraged. You can send as well a reminder. Don't do any harassment. Send a reminder maybe a month later, and apply. I think we still want to apply because more faculty members will also look at your applications.
So it's about to make your homework, find out what is the research that the professor is making, try to make them with the right approach. Of course, you will be working with this professor, so be careful about what is the explanation, how do you introduce yourself. Here we have a testimonial of Cecile that she receives emails all the time, so just follow that advice. I think we run out of time. We can stay here also longer if you are available as well, just to answer the questions in the chat, or do you want me to continue saying them loud because there are many coming? I don't know, as you prefer.
I'm happy to continue answering questions in the chat, or if you have questions about admissions, you can again send them to MME.gradadmissions@waterloo.ca, and that's me that you'll be speaking to most likely. That's a good place to go with questions, and I guess we can type the answers to the questions that are open in the chat. So if you have a question that hasn't been answered, it's in the question and answer chat right now. I'll type those answers, but if your questions are already been answered, I guess we can say goodbye.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Tanya, Matt, Cecile. This is a great session and a great session and a good guide for everybody who's interested in the programs in mechanical and mechatronics in the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Waterloo. We hope to see you all soon. Thank you very much all for your time.